In 2024, Chinese cyberattacks on U.S. infrastructure surged by 150%. But you didn't hear about that on the evening news. Unlike missiles or tanks, cyber weapons leave no smoke, no explosions, and often no trace. But their impact? Devastating. Power grids flicker, confidential data vanishes, and entire communication networks go dark. And at the center of it all is China, not loudly boasting but quietly maneuvering. Winning, not with bombs but with code. So here's the twist. While the US spends billions on traditional defense, China has been waging, and arguably winning, a war most Americans don't even realize they're in. How did we get here? What strategies does China use to stay ahead? And why is the US, a global tech superpower, playing catch-up? These are the questions we're going to answer. Because what's unfolding behind screens and servers could decide the next era of global power. But the biggest question? If the war is invisible, how will we know we've lost? China's approach to cyber warfare isn't just aggressive. It's strategic. It's rooted in a military doctrine that dates back centuries to Sun Tzu, who wrote, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." In the digital era, that philosophy translates into lines of code and invisible networks of espionage. At the heart of China's cyber strategy lies asymmetric warfare. Rather than matching the US dollar for dollar in conventional military might, China invests in tools that exploit US vulnerabilities, the very systems that power its modern economy: data, networks, and infrastructure. This isn't just theory. It's backed by real forces like the Ministry of State Security, MSS, and the People's Liberation Army, PLA Unit 61398, which Western intelligence has directly linked to some of the most sophisticated hacking operations in history. These aren't rogue actors. They're state-sponsored, structured, funded, and embedded within China's long-term vision. Here's the brilliance, one in the danger. China plays the long game. Their campaigns are often slow and low. That means no flashy attacks, no quick wins. Instead, they infiltrate networks and stay dormant, gathering intelligence, mapping systems, and waiting for weeks, months, even years. And while the US focuses on short-term defense cycles and shifting political priorities, China's cyber apparatus runs like a machine, uninterrupted, disciplined, and relentless. But why would a rising superpower risk such covert aggression? The answer lies in ambition. China doesn't just want parity with the West, it wants dominance in AI, in quantum computing, and in information warfare. And unlike conventional military buildups, cyber operations don't need aircraft carriers or tanks, just a laptop and a satellite connection. It's cheap, effective, and hard to trace. The real question isn't whether China has a strategy. It's whether the US is even playing the same game. If you think cyber attacks are all about stealing passwords or planting viruses, think again. China has moved way past that. In 2023, US intelligence agencies exposed a chilling operation, Volt Typhoon, a Chinese cyber campaign that had silently infiltrated critical American infrastructure. We're talking about power grids, water systems, transportation hubs, and even undersea communications cables. But here's the terrifying part. They weren't there to sabotage, yet. Instead, they used a technique called living off the land, exploiting tools that already exist in a system. No flashy malware, no digital fingerprints. They slipped in, moved quietly, and blended into the background. Volt Typhoon was designed to sit and wait. Its mission wasn't theft, it was pre-positioning, setting up for a future conflict where China could flip a digital switch and plunge parts of the US into darkness. Then came Salt Typhoon, another advanced persistent threat targeting American telecommunications companies. This campaign wasn't about infrastructure. It was about listening, quietly intercepting sensitive government and corporate communications, often without anyone knowing they'd been compromised. What's chilling is how methodical these campaigns are. Chinese hackers don't just attack, they study. They map out employee routines, they learn the software, they mimic trusted users, they turn the US's own systems against itself. And while the US was catching up to Volt Typhoon, there were already whispers of more. Bronze Starlight, APT-41, and others operating across Europe, Asia, and Africa. It's a spider web of cyber espionage, and it's expanding. So why aren't we hearing more about this? Because these attacks aren't designed to be seen. Their success depends on silence. Every extra day they go undetected is a win. And in most cases, the victims don't even know they've been compromised until the damage is done. Or until federal agencies step in. We broke this down fully in a previous video about why China's tech rise scares the West. Make sure to check that one out if you want to understand the broader picture behind these cyber offensives. These aren't isolated incidents. They are part of a coordinated, state-backed campaign to dominate cyberspace before the world even realizes a war has begun. So here's the question. If Volt Typhoon is just what we've discovered, what else is still lurking, undiscovered? Cyber weapons aren't China's only tools. Behind the screens, there's something far older, and in some ways, even more dangerous: human intelligence. In 2023, headlines quietly surfaced about a man named John Rogers, a respected economist at the US Federal Reserve. His background? Impeccable. His access? Deep. But according to the FBI, his loyalties may not have been so clear. Rogers was accused of establishing covert contact with officials tied to China's intelligence apparatus, allegedly offering economic insights and internal data in exchange for personal advancement and favors. But Rogers is just one case in a growing list. From Silicon Valley engineers smuggling source code to university researchers funneling critical AI breakthroughs, China's recruitment of human assets is strategic and relentless. They often target immigrants with family ties back home, young researchers seeking grants, or even retired defense officials with a grudge. It's called the 1,000 Talents Plan. And while it sounds like a scholarship program, it's actually a state-sponsored initiative to pull top minds and their knowledge into China's orbit. The US government has labeled it a national security threat, yet it continues to operate in the shadows. Why does this matter? Because data stolen through hacking can be technical, but data stolen by people? That's strategic. That's inside knowledge. That's intent. And combined with China's cyber reach, it creates a devastating formula: a digital breach from one side and a human source on the inside. A 1-2 punch the US is struggling to block. So here's the twist. No one saw coming. The most dangerous malware may not be in your system. It might be sitting at the desk next to you. While China's cyber machinery operates with precision and long-term focus, the US response has been fragmented. At the center of America's cyber defense is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA. It's tasked with protecting everything from voting systems to energy grids. But in 2024, just as threats like Volt Typhoon were making headlines, Congress proposed cutting CISA's budget by hundreds of millions of dollars. Yes, cutting. This raises a brutal question. How can the US win a cyber war when it's pulling funding from its frontline defenders? Budget cuts aren't the only problem. There's also a talent gap. The US faces a massive shortage of skilled cybersecurity professionals. Meanwhile, China is churning out highly trained hackers from government-linked academies with one goal: breach, extract, disrupt. And then there's the bureaucratic lag. Agencies like the NSA, FBI, and Department of Defense often work in silos. Information sharing is slow, response times are slower, and China exploits that, attacking the seams, not the walls. Most troubling of all, many critical systems in the US like hospitals, municipal utilities, and schools, still run on outdated infrastructure, ripe for exploitation. So while China prepares for the next generation of cyber warfare, the US is still patching software from 2003. It's not that America doesn't have the resources, it's that those resources are often misaligned, focused on conventional threats in an age where code can do more damage than missiles. Here's the chilling contrast. China is thinking in decades. The US still stuck in budget cycles. If this were a chess game, China is thinking 10 moves ahead, while America is still arguing about whose turn it is. Cyber warfare isn't just about national security anymore. It's about economic survival, global influence, and the future of democracy itself. Every successful cyber intrusion, whether it's stealing trade secrets or manipulating communication networks, erodes American competitiveness. Chinese hackers have reportedly targeted everything from semiconductor designs to pharmaceutical R&D. That's not espionage for defense, that's industrial theft at scale. And the result? Companies lose their edge, innovation slows, markets shift, the US economy bleeds silently. But the damage goes even deeper. Imagine this. What happens when the public can no longer trust the integrity of an election, or the safety of their water supply, or even the accuracy of a news report? That's the true power of cyber operations. They don't just steal, they manipulate reality. We saw early glimpses of this during the 2016 US elections. But since then, disinformation campaigns have become more sophisticated. And while Russia pioneered this space, China is now mastering it, quietly, subtly, through proxies, through platforms, through seemingly innocuous messages that sow confusion and mistrust. And here's the kicker. As the US focuses on protecting systems, China is targeting minds. Meanwhile, in the developing world, China is exporting its digital influence, providing surveillance systems, AI infrastructure, and cloud services to countries eager for cheap tech. What looks like economic aid is often a backdoor into national networks, a form of soft cyber imperialism. All of this ties back to one goal: redefine the global balance of power, without firing a single shot. If the US loses the tech race, the innovation race, the data race, it doesn't just fall behind. It becomes dependent, vulnerable, a superpower in name only. The silent war China is waging isn't just about networks, it's about narratives. And whoever controls the narrative controls the future. So, China isn't just hacking servers, it's hacking systems. Not just the digital kind, but the political, economic, and psychological systems that hold societies together. Through state-backed campaigns like Volt Typhoon and Salt Typhoon, China has already embedded itself into US critical infrastructure. Through initiatives like the 1,000 Talents Plan, it's siphoning off America's intellectual capital. And through disinformation and tech exports, it's shaping global narratives and aligning other nations under its digital shadow. This isn't a future threat. It's happening now, quietly, invisibly, and with devastating effectiveness. And the US? It's still wrestling with budget cuts, talent shortages, and outdated systems. In a world where dominance is decided by code, not cannons, this could be fatal. So what can be done? The US needs to treat cyber like the battlefield it is. Not a technical issue, but a strategic priority. That means investing in cyber defense like we invest in defense contractors. That means recruiting top talent and breaking bureaucratic silos. And that means protecting not just networks, but the trust and resilience of the public. Because the most dangerous virus China may ever unleash is the belief that America has already lost. But here's the bigger question we leave you with. If cyber warfare is shaping the 21st century, what happens when the next global conflict starts? And no one hears a single shot? Let us know in the comments. Do you think the US is doing enough to fight this invisible war? Or is China too far ahead? And if you want to understand why China's rise scares even the most powerful Western tech leaders, don't miss our deep dive. Why China's tech rise scares the West. Because this isn't just a story about hacks, it's about the future of power.